Hey, I'm NichBoy and welcome to Pocket for Friday the 11th of March. Today on the show, BAFTAs, the Age of Pyro, and a Total War interview. Alright, here's what's been making headlines. The BAFTA Game Award nominees have been revealed. Since 2004, the British Academy of Film and Television Arts has let their younger cousin, video games, join in the festivities at the prestigious awards event. This year's frontrunners are The Chinese Room's Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, which has nominations in 10 categories. The Witcher 3 is nominated in 6 categories, and Life is Strange has 5 nominations. One of my favorites, Her Story, is up for Debut Game, Game Design, and Original Property. And Worst Original Song. These are the worst detectives in the world. The Division is breaking sales records for Ubisoft. According to a post from their official blog, the game has sold more copies in 24 hours than any other Ubisoft game. It's also set the highest digital sales across Xbox One, PS4 and PC for the same period for the company. The post fails to reveal the exact launch day figures, but Steam Spy put sales at 250,000 on Valve's service alone, which of course ignores console and Uplay figures. And we are all trying to ignore Uplay. Dead Island 2 is alive! The game has had a troubled development and was put on the back burner in July last year when developer Jaeger and publisher Deep Silver had a conflict of vision. Jaeger was taken off the project then and there. Today though, 9 months later, the game is back in development at a new studio, with Little Big Planet 3 developer Sumo Digital taking the reins. The game is expected sometime later this year. Toki Tori developer Two Tribes will quit making games later this year, but they've got one more release in them yet. In September, they will release platforming shoot 'em up Rive, and then they're throwing in the towel. The Two Tribes blog sums up their decision, saying that they've realized that since the studio opened in 2000, the industry has changed and they've failed to keep up. This studio will remain operational in the near future to support Rive, but they won't be actively developing anything new. And YouTube's gaming app has been released in 4 new countries, and one of them is Australia, baby! While technically there is little difference feature-wise from the current YouTube app, the YouTube gaming design lends itself towards game-related content and particularly live streams. The chat still sucks though. Alright, now it's time for Thing of the Day. And of course I was talking about the content of the chat, not the technical aspect. Lift your game, guys.
Okay, rolling. Oh!
It's Thing of the Day. YouTuber The Pinky has recreated the Avengers Age of Ultron trailer, compositing in characters from the Source filmmaker program.
From the inside.
That's the best you can do!
You had to ask. Okay, rolling. Oh!
It's Thing of the Day. Now, earlier in the week, we were joined by James Whitston, who is a campaign designer at Creative Assembly. We spoke a little about their upcoming game, Total War Warhammer, and also a little about gardening. James, thank you very much for joining me.
You're welcome.
Total War Warhammer is the first game in the series to completely do away with the sort of real history.
Yeah.
What's that experience been like?
There's a lot of parallels, actually. Whenever we start making a Total War game, there's a long research period where we're obviously finding about the historical period that we're working in.
Mm-hmm.
This time, again, we're working in a historical period. It just happens to be an invented
Yeah,
fantasy
right.
historical period.
Yeah.
So we spent a long time with our heads in the books. There's something like 15 different army books and the main rule book. And that's just heaven for me. I love all that kind of thing. The second phase of the kind of research period was Games Workshop sent us a load of the models and stuff. So
Cool.
having read all of those books, we then started spending our lunch times and after work playing all the battles, really finding what all the armies are all about, what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are. And that kind of informed the next stage, which is actually, you know, designing the features for each of those races. So
I have a bit of a history with Warhammer. When I was a
Okay.
kid, my cousin used to play a lot of Warhammer,
Right.
and he would paint all the figurines and set them all out, and then I would go and try to touch them, and he would hit me.
yeah, yeah.
So that's my experience with Warhammer.
Yeah.
Why Warhammer for Total War, beyond my cousin hitting me?
Well, it's kind of a match made in heaven, and a lot of us were kind of wondering, why didn't we do this sooner? It's about where CA were as a studio. So we used to be a fairly small size. We've been growing steadily, and we've kind of got to the point now where we can have a dedicated team to work on Warhammer, a dedicated team for the historical titles, a dedicated team for the kind of downloadable content side of things.
And is that a new development, having those segregated sort of sections?
Yeah, definitely, and that's allowed us to actually do this properly. We didn't want to do it in a kind of a half-baked way, so Warhammer is just such an enormous IP that it demands a full team working on it, and we've actually got that now, so it's allowed us to go forward in the correct way and at the kind of internal quality level that we kind of demand of ourselves and that people out there expect from a Total War game.
Yeah, right. Well, I was going to ask whether or not Warhammer, because you are operating in a fictional universe, whether it gives you more creative freedom. I guess in one way it does, but from what you're saying, you are also tying yourself to an incredibly established history anyway. So I guess it's a different kind of freedom?
Yeah, you have to kind of respect what Games Workshop has created, but what they have created is such a perfect fit for Total War, the existing feature set, and what we can achieve, within the resources we've got for this project. It's just such a perfect fit.
And so there hasn't been a Warhammer strategy game kind of like this since Warhammer Battle March in 2008, and the 40k games kind of stopped when THQ went under with Relic. Was there concern that early on in the development there might not be public interest in Warhammer, or maybe even RTS?
Not really. I mean, we're all geeks in the studio anyway, and you say Warhammer to somebody who's a geek and their eyes light up.
Yeah.
And you look at those books and it's just great stuff.
Yeah.
And
look at this guy. look at those lit up eyes.
Yeah. So whatever's going on elsewhere, we could tell it's the kind of stuff that interests us, and if it interests us, it's going to interest people out there. So.
Yeah, cool. And then in terms of developing an RTS, because RTS is a genre that was huge on pretty much on the PC, and then it's kind of morphed. I guess MOBAs have kind of taken over from RTS in a lot of ways, and team-based games as opposed to necessarily sort of single-player stuff. What to you is the appeal of an RTS? What do you see in RTSs that you want to make other people fall in love with again?
Well, I think it's the kind of strategic thinking. I mean, the great thing about Total War is it's kind of a golden formula. So it's not just the RTS of the huge epic scale battles we've got, it's the turn-based kind of slower thinking man's kind of strategy side of the game, and it's the symbiosis of those two that make the kind of perfect combination for me. So you can take your time, you can plan things on the campaign map, and that has a direct influence on what happens when you actually go in and into that real-time kind of mode on the battle, and again, the outcome of that battle then feeds back into the campaign.
Who's next?
You and I was speaking a bit before we started filming. Your background is not actually, has not always been video games. It was originally landscape gardening.
Yep.
Can you talk to me about how you went from a sort of Fabio-style hedge trimmer into being a sort of campaign designer on a strategy game?
Well, it's a pretty natural progression, I'm
sure
sure you'll agree.
Yeah.
But, I got an interview through a friend of mine to get QA as a tester at CA, so I started off there and got offered an opportunity to script some battles for a product called Alexander, which is part of the Total War series. Kind of did that, really enjoyed it, did the same again on Medieval 2, and then kind of, just hard work. You've got to be interested. I was always a massive Total War fan, and working on those games is not work for me. So your background then, did you have coding experience before you started there? So you actually went from QA tester to campaign designer in the space of how long? I've been with the company for 10.5 years.
That's very impressive.
Yeah, well...
Do you realize that's very impressive? That you learned how to make video games only once you were hired to help make a video game?
It helps that I had kind of an encyclopedic knowledge of Total War, just because I love Total War, that's my kind of game.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if you're interested in something, like I say, it's not work, it's what I wanted to do with my evenings and my weekends and that kind of thing, and that allows you to take on board an enormous amount of knowledge in a short space of time. So there
are so many landscape gardeners watching right now who are just calling up Activision going like, can I have a job? I have no experience, but this guy did it.
Yeah.
To go back to the game, it just had its release date pushed back from April 28th to May 24th.
That's right.
Is that because you're in Australia? Do you need to go home and finish the game that you're working on?
It would be lovely to think I was that important, but no, I mean, basically it's...
I'm a mere gardener.
Exactly. Yeah, no, it's an enormous game. There's a lot of content in there, and basically the truth is that needs playing through, you know, to really nail the polish and the balance and everything like that. So we've given ourselves an extra month, really, and it also gives reviewers extra time to actually play, you know, a full campaign or whatever they want to do really within the game, so they can have a proper look at things and really put together their reviews based on that. So it's kind of a win-win situation for everyone.
Can I ask, and you may not be able to answer this question, but the process of delaying the game, was that something that came sort of externally and pointing in, or is that you guys sitting around going, like, how do you decide how much time you need, and why now? Was it like, okay, we've realized that, did you not hit a marker or something now where you went, oh no, this isn't exactly where we need it to be?
Yeah, obviously we've got our internal markers. I mean, the development of the game has actually been very smooth, so we've been at alpha for a very long time. We had a long alpha to beta period. It's just the scale of the game is so large, and we've deliberately gone for a different feature set, campaign side for each of the races. Each of the races got a very different roster. Sometimes they've got holes in their roster deliberately because that reflects, you know, the tabletop game. And so we're balancing the game within a deliberately imbalanced environment. So to really nail that balance, we have to give it time. So it's better to take that extra month and get it right than it is to rush it out just to hit, you know, the deadline that we set originally, and maybe not to have got the perfect balance to it. So it was the right thing to do.
It's so nice hearing someone who makes a video game say, it's best we just get it right before we put it out. Pay attention, Ubisoft. That's it. Thank you very much for joining me. Good luck with the game.
Thanks very much.
I'm very excited to see how it turns out. And if it's a giant flop, which it won't be, it'll be fine. But you do have gardening to fall back on.
That's right.
Let's not forget this.
There's always the hedge cutters.
All right. Thank you very much, James.
Thank you.
My first job was in a video shop, and they don't exist anymore, so I have nothing to fall back on. But James will always have gardening. All right, that's it for today's episode, my Pocketeers, and that's it for the week. Now, before we leave, make sure you stay on the internet and just click open a new tab so that you can check out Good Game on Facebook, YouTube, and iView. Want to meet fellow Pocketeers? Then join the Pocketeers Facebook group and Steam group. You can follow Good Game on Twitter at Good Game TV, follow Pocket at NichBoy, at Pierreth, at GGEditMonkey, and at Samgi. There are links to everything I just said in the description below. Today's Thing of the Day graphic was made by Cringeworthy, also his second submission. If you've made a thing, and you should, please send it in. Now, obviously, I will be away all next week, but Goose will be looking after you on Monday. Please be gentle with him. It's not his fault, he is the way he is. Until I return, NichBoy out. Thought I was gonna bet.